What is up, everybody? This is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook video stream on Neofeud 2, the state of the Disunion slash Dystopia. And this is going to be a video that deals with the updates on the game, but also the state of the neo-feudal reality of 2024. And Neofeud 1 is on sale. And please support our native Hawaiian anti-capitalist cooperative here that we require the sales of the game to keep going. So if you like science fictional games, cyberpunk games, retro 90s satirical games, want to support your indie dev, no AI generated art used in any of this. No bosses and no CEOs here. It's just I am essentially a solo dev, doing all the games production itself, programming, writing, music, art. There's no bosses, no landlords here at the Silverspook Cooperative. And Holly, of course, helps with various other tasks, including moderating on these streams. And all the sales go directly to support us in doing this ongoing work. As Native Hawaiians against the colonial oppression by the United States, among other things. So if you want to help us with that, consider grabbing the game now. If you play games, if you don't play games, consider grabbing it for some of your friends or comrades, relatives, buddies, whatever you have, anything you got. You can get Neofeud on Steam. It's Black Friday weekend, right? It's the thanks getting, thanks buying, thanks taking, thanks grabbing, thanks for grabbing the games on Steam. And so if you really want to help us out, this is one great way to do it. Neofeud, just a little bit more on Neofeud, since I need to make sure I promote the game more regularly, more frequently. But just a little bit about the game. It is a dystopian cyberpunk adventure game in the vein of a Blade Runner, but with political intrigue overlays. I guess Game of Thrones is not as well watched as it was previously, but anyway. It is a game that has feudal realities overlaying cyberpunk science fiction realities in a very surreal, satirical, tongue-in-cheek sort of way. But it is my game. I spent 2.5 years working on it. The art, writing, programming, music, and audio are made by myself, also known as Silverspook, with the exception of about half of the voice acting. In 2033, we create AI. Sentient robots arrive, but not as our Terminator overlords or singularity saviors. Conscious machines are humanity's quote-unquote unwanted bastard children. A few are geniuses who design flying cars, beat cancer, invent teleportation, but millions of defective prototypes roll out of factories. Mentally challenged, motivationally challenged, criminally inclined, legally conscious but unhireable. These defectives are shuffled through public housing and welfare assistance, straining an already overburdened back of a meager social safety net. The robots who don't end up in prison are dumped as a last resort into a massive landfill known as the pile. Humans engage in perfection of their species, or at least the powerful and well-connected, genetically engineering children with human and animal DNA. The failed eugenics experiment Franken-people are discarded into the pile as well. New dynasties, neo-feudal lords live in towering neon glass castles, shuttle around in pristine nanotech-enabled pods, their minds and bodies full of cyberware, spending most of their time taking selfies and optimizing their monetization schemes. A race of supermen concerned only with their own status, their prestige, and their success. Where machines have become all too flawed and human, people have become flawless, perfect, cold machines. Carl Carbon is an ex-cop dishonorably discharged from Coastlandia Police Department for disobeying an order to shoot an unarmed sentient humanoid. Carl is exiled to the pile as a lowly social worker, where he counsels gangbanging foster kid robots and confiscates chimera, half-wolf, deadbeat parents, till one day a case goes horribly sideways and Carl is drawn into a sordid conspiracy that could threaten the strained fabric of human-robot hybrid civilization or save it. Anyway, that's just the synopsis of the game. I don't know why I just decided to read that entire intro. well, I mean, now you get more of an idea of what Neofeud is about. If you don't know, if you do know what Neofeud is about, I apologize for re-informing you. But so the sequel to that game, Neofeud, is currently nearly completed. I'm going to be a bit more interactive in the stream because this is the state of the game. It's meant to give people like an update on where things are at with the sequel, and while simultaneously promoting the first one, because we need, as I said, to we need to sell copies of the first Neofeud in order to keep the lights on, pay the bills, keep the housing, have a housing to live in for myself, Holly, and our 2 kids. And this is our family business basically. While finishing Neofeud 2, so I'll probably come back and play the trailer in a little bit, but as part of this. But yeah, don't forget Neofeud is 70% off right now. We're a social worker for homeless robots, ex-con, and a socialist princess fight post-human CEO kings. And this is a trailer for Neofeud 2. If you have not seen it before, here's a review from a very this is one of the best reviews we ever had. Neofeud is like if Gerald Horne made video games. So this might be the highest praise I've ever gotten. If you don't know who Gerald Horne is a legendary Black historian. So very important in the movement. He's also a member of some very important African American organizations or African organizations. There's one picture. I just saw this picture going out when he was young. Yeah, but he's been a part of very important movements in the United States as a Black activist for a long time, and also a historian. Anyways, so shout out to Gerald. Gerald Horne did not say that about Neofeud, but somebody said that Neofeud is like if the Gerald Horne made video games. So Gerald Horne, if you would like to make a video game, I'm down. Anyways, okay. Okay. I'm just gonna go through. I'm just gonna go through a bunch of this since we're already here and we're talking about the Neofeud. So it is on sale. If you have not seen it before, there is a thread about my life as an impoverished Native Hawaiian social worker and STEM teacher for other poor, homeless folks living in slums beneath billionaire mansions. And Neofeud is essentially my experiences refracted through the lens of satirical cyberpunk. So Neofeud it's simultaneously a universal game that is just a cyberpunk science fictional comedic retro 90s point and click adventure entertainment software, but it's also like directly related to my personal experiences as a Native Hawaiian. And so this is a thread I have read it many times and gone through it, but if you haven't before, I might go through it later, we'll see. But this is a thread about how Neofeud is anti-capitalist, anti-racist, anti-imperial cyberpunk. And from my Native Hawaiian perspective, making this game while working 40 plus hours in social services and teaching in ghettos. Also, while basically homeless for parts of that time, Neofeud is my life in art. So you can read through that. I won't read through the whole thing right now, but something else I want to say about there's something I posted this week that was directly related to this. Before I get to Neofeud 2 updates, feel free to if you have questions about Neofeud 2, just drop them inside of the chat. I will try to answer them this time. If you can donate through Ko-Fi, I will guarantee to answer it. Just tell me what's your Ko-Fi name. I don't have super chat on here, but if you donate through Ko-Fi, I will guaranteed. And then you say, "This is my question, please answer it." Unless it's something like I really can't answer. As Omega Corp's rapid fire workers, as I said, like Silver Spook games, like it's Black Friday, right? It's big sales day. It's a day where most big corporations get into the black, as is the lingo in the corporate world. And so it's Black Friday, right? Everybody's shopping. So people pointed out, I mean, there's a big there's a big STRIKE. I can't. Gotta remember which words you can't say on this. I can never remember them all. But there's a big mass not going to work day, right, at Amazon, and because they don't want to mistreatment. I think also Canada is having a big STRIKE. The postal workers, right, and of course they're being attacked for this. But part of the reason why things are happening, and people are, so there's some discourse about this was a big event that just happened, right? But part of the reason why there's a discourse about, like, should these people be doing this? Why are they interrupting my shopping, right? Because it's going to be a little bit harder to shop, right? Sending packages to the postal service in Canada. Like, these people are disrupting my mass gorging on corporate products that funds the burning of the entire earth. No, but like some people say, shop from independent businesses, small businesses, less damaging businesses, like the ones that don't fund imperial, colonial, the big G word, in Middle East, don't. Many people are pointing out, don't ever shop at companies that are funding horrible atrocities, right, and sending money that is going to assist and aid horrible things. But also the capitalist system as a whole of the wealthy and billionaires and powerful, generally really horrible people, controlling all the business and the commerce, the buying and the selling, and then what to do with the revenue from that, right? That's what a capitalist corporation is, right? Capitalist business, right? Which is different from a non-capitalist. There's different kinds of cooperative businesses, like socialist, other state-owned enterprises. That I don't want to get too far into the weeds at the moment, but so many people are talking about, like, where should we buy from? Where should we buy our products from? As we're buying Christmas presents for people, they say, like, in the last few weeks, most corporations, most businesses in the U.S. make the majority of their money, right? So this is a time when it can really hurt them, right? If they're not, if more, let's say, maliciously operated business, distribution of goods, let's just call it, more problematic ones, if they are not being utilized, right, that does harm them, right, in the way that, like, McDonald's and Domino's and several other brands, right, because of their malicious practices and people choosing to not buy their products over the last year, they have seen billions of dollars of losses. They have been harmed and forced to think about what they're doing, right? And so anyway, but so similarly, let me just fix my chat here. So similarly, Silverstone Games is a worker-owned cooperative, meaning that, like, there are no bosses, there are no the rich or people with large amounts of capital, like millions of dollars. Obviously, we're not a huge company, but there are indie game companies they do have boards made of that are set by shareholders that control companies, right? They have investors, right? So there's people that have money, put money into, they buy shares in a company. The major shareholders and on a large corporation like a Walmart, the major shareholders that are mostly millionaires and billionaires, right? Capitalism is people are interested in making sure that money continues to control and dominate and direct society and human activity and everything. And so so the people that buy the shares in whether that's a big Fortune 500 company, like I said, Walmart, or you could have smaller mid-sized companies that still have, like, a wealthy millionaire investor, or a handful of them. Some are like BlackRock, are these huge huge financial entities that accumulate, you know, and large banks that accumulate vast amounts of capital, and they use that to control many companies, much of business productive activities, and what to do with the revenue from those productive activities. And so those mega corporations, right? In cyberpunk terms, those are often because cyberpunk as a genre, a lot of it kind of sprang out of the 1980s neoliberal Reaganomics era, when a lot of money was going. Well, it was a time when greed, which had been shamed, it had been made to be deemed Wall Street traders, right? Corporate executives, bankers like J.P. Morgan, like the actual J.P. Morgan, right, in the 1930s, who was literally like, mocked and ridiculed, and was, there's like a circus act in the Pecora commissions, which is a big post Roaring Twenties like series of lawsuits. There are also public events of the collective rage against the wealthy capitalists, on Wall Street in the early 20th century in the United States, right? Anyway, so the 80s were about, kind of bringing that. Donald Trump himself was the poster boy to shore up, to make greed, make capitalism, make Wall Streeters, make rich guys, right? Make seeking wealth, make bankers cool again, make them likable, make them like loved by the society, right? To return to a wealth worshipping consciousness in the United States and globally, but definitely in the United States, right? And so like where was I going with that? So the capitalist corporations, they have an interest in people not learning about obviously that history, but they also have an interest in like Elon Musk has been, right, like the new poster child for the cool, it's culture, because this is all the cultural angle is very important to this, right? It's not there's economic angles, but the cultural is just as if not more important, right? What people believe is the right thing, the good thing, a good way to live, a good system, right? Like we should worship wealth, right? The best thing to do in your life is to seek more money, right? At all costs, right? And so obviously communism, socialism, these are antithetical or in the opposite direction of that. And the United States is an anti-communist. Its goals, its highest levels, are to prevent the spread of communism as a capitalist superpower. And so so they would like to keep a lot of this hidden, but the reality is that like the mega corporations, right? I was trying to get to the mega corporations in Cyberpunk. So the mega corporations in Cyberpunk were a response to like in Neuromancer and in Blade Runner, like and Neofeud has a lot of references to those. The reinstallment of greed is good, right? Rich, powerful stock traders and Wall Streeters in suits, right? Making tons of money is a good, moral, virtuous thing you should aspire to, right? These should be your role models, right? Donald Trump was like a role model. People forget this, but Donald Trump was, because before that, it's like there's Bob Dylan, civil rights activists, right? Like there was always an attempt to try to like unions and socialism and communism were, they were very popular in the earlier 20th century, in the 30s. They were being questioned in the 50s, right? And there was a lot of pushback and anti-communism Red Scare. But there's still a lot of, people were like, being pushed away by their ruling classes that propagandized them. But there was also a collective fight to, to continue to support anti-capitalist, not wealth worshiping, right? Not seeking power and money at all costs in their society. But by the time we got to the 80s, Blade Runner. I mean, there's many things. This Orientalism and techno-Oriental, Yellow Peril in the future fears, but it's also like the fear that like or it was a kind of a cautionary response. Alien, right, where a giant faceless corporation, right, is destroying everything, killing everyone, including the workers, for profits at all costs, right? It's kind of like hyper privatized, hyper corporate nightmare entity, Weyland-Yutani. But Blade Runner also had Tyrell Corporation, where this super rich individuals would just dominate society, commodify human bodies themselves, or commodify the people vis-a-vis like replicants, right? These androids in this world. And so, and Neofeud directly is references and deals with Blade Runner as well, obviously, as a cyberpunk science fiction. But the cyberpunk is like, it's weird because it's kind of like the paradox of 2020s were, or really like for much of its history, but definitely the last 40 years, the paradox of a cyberpunk dystopia where mega corporations like gut and defang cyberpunk itself, or turned it into a commodified corporate product in a genre that was, at least I feel like it was ostensibly trying to criticize the downfall and the problems of a society that in which everything is privatized, and in which wealth seeking, profit seeking, capital accumulation at all costs, right, in symbolized by the rich suit, the Tyrell, the faceless giant corporation that takes all the revenue and gives it to these faraway rich fat cat shareholders, right, who then use that money to control everything, buy governments, fund wars, fund empire, right, in the off-world colonies, crush and extract resources, enslave continents, as they did prior to for a long time, for the last 500 years, under a colonial system, which is also why the alien vehicle is called the Nostromo. It's a reference to Joseph Conrad's tour de force, the Heart of Darkness. He has multiple books that deal with colonialism, but and so this kind of, but it's in the 2020s. It's like there's a cyberpunk dystopian games and cyberpunk dystopian movies that are made themselves by mega corporations that are ostensibly about, right, ostensibly that are so that the actually interesting, actually critical cyberpunk gets, including Cyberpunk 2077, I would argue, gets consumed by mega corporations that destroy everything with predatory capitalism, or all of it is predatory, for their own personal profit. And so, as mega corporations rapid fire workers, like a trigger happy call of colonialism protagonist. That's what I like to call Call of Duty, because it literally is a way to propagandize people into imperial war, and to supporting it and manufacturing consent for it. The CEOs, the heads of that corporation, they have revolving door jobs in the United States federal government, in fact, at the Pentagon. So swapping plagiarism software AIs for their workers. Silver Spoon Games Cooperative maintains zero layoffs as a non-capitalist, indigenous-run, democratized workplace, prioritizing people over profit. So you don't have to just support us because I said so, but like, you should support more non-capitalist, democratically organized workplaces, in the sense that the workers control what they're going to do, what they're going to produce, how they're going to work, the conditions that they're working in, and what to do with the profits, in particular, the money that's made, right? Just as an example, right? If Wayland Yutani and Terrell Corporation were cooperatives, right? Just like Mondragon is a large Western cooperative, that's actually in the Basque region, which is technically indigenous people in Europe, but then the highest paid executive, there is no board of, there are no shareholders, right? The workers are the workers own the company collectively. Slightly a different race depending on their seniority and how long they've been there, but there is no external people with money, right, with capital, who put tentacles into other people's lives by owning shares in their company, privatized company, who can then extract money without doing anything, right? So it's kind of they're external people with the straws drinking other people's milkshake, with having done nothing except have pre-existing power, privilege, money, and usually these are also aristocratic, the descendants of aristocratic European families, the vast majority of them, from the pre-capitalist feudal era, but the feudal dynastic colonialism and all these interlocking power structures are directly related into capitalism as well. And so these people have like privilege, aristocratic, oligarchic privilege, without having to do anything, right? Simply like Elon is a descendant of South African apartheid emerald mine owner, right? Colonizer down there. And he's Elon was recently called. His father said now Elon is doing what he was meant to do, which is reify and push for the great white race. He didn't exactly say that. Basically, maintaining a Western European supremacy worldwide, which is what his father is about, and also the supremacy of capital. So but Elon himself does not. I've pointed out, and many people have pointed out, he doesn't have any particular skills or qualifications, and he's not worth the hundreds of billions of dollars that he is now, has in his bank account, right? So, and so having that money allows him to invest. He's talking about buying like Dungeons and Dragons company, all these things, right? So that is not producing anything. That is only increasing the power of individuals who have not earned that don't deserve that power, that cause problems in the world because they will choose, for example, right, to start a war, get people killed, impoverish people in coups, in austerity programs, especially in the global south, so that they can make more money with the money they already have, right? So it's a capitalist system, an imperial system, as the highest stage of that, is a kind of cancerous, self-destructive system that it snowballs. The more power, the more money people have, the more they can buy, the more that they can warp people, destroy, cause mass violence using weapons, soldiers, armies, bombs, right? Lockheed Martin and Raytheon missiles to destroy other and attack entire countries, to subjugate those people and force them into subservience, taking horrible wages and having the resources stolen: oil, coltan copper, emeralds, diamonds, rubber, tea, silk, semiconductors, right? So anyway, so anytime you shop at a corporation, any kind of capitalist corporation of any kind, really, that allows external investors to own shares in that, especially private individuals and entire empires like the United States or BlackRock, large, quasi-financial vampire squids like that, Goldman Sachs. Anytime any capitalist corporation should be boycotted if possible, if at all possible. If you cannot buy anywhere else, those should all, and also but also companies that are directly supporting massive human rights violations, especially in the Middle East. And you should try to support as many of these. Not everybody knows what a cooperative exactly is, but and they're not all exactly the same. And you can even call yourself a cooperative, but secretly have financial investors, and you're lying about that. That happens. in the same way that you could call yourself democratic and not really have a functioning democracy like the United States, which is a plutocracy according to Gillens and Page and other Harvard and Princeton actual studies. So right, you could call yourself a non-capitalist cooperative, but not be one. That's another important point. Anyway, so this is a lot of extra talk about what Silver Spoon Games is, but that is what Silver Spoon Games is. Did anybody ask the question? What is up, McLovin? I don't think anybody did yet. So, I'm just kind of going around in circles. Let me move on. But yeah, so don't forget, Neofeud is on sale and help us to pay some bills, do education work, and not become homeless again in our own land. And you also get anti-capitalist, anti-racist cyberpunk games or dystopian science fiction games if you don't know what a cyberpunk is. Maybe you have learned something if you don't in the last little bit of the stream. Okay, I did that. Okay. So what is the state of maybe I'll talk about my Neofeud 2 because this is supposed to be about at least in part the state of Neofeud 2. So where is Neofeud 2 at? Presently, I am done with approximately, well, I am 100% done with the rough version of the game. So well, okay, I didn't quite do the intro yet. I still haven't figured that out. I don't have the title screen or the credits, obviously. But the actual gameplay from start to finish is done in terms of the writing. The writing is let's just say the rough draft of the writing is done from start to finish. The art is done. The animations are done. The programming of the coding of the game itself is done. You can play through it, start to finish. I'm currently in the editing the script, editing the game, and making sure that everything is consistent, makes sense, flows properly, is a complete, doesn't have any major glaring potholes, and like fixing and tweaking parts of the game that I feel like some things need to be cut, some things need to be slightly extended or modified. Neofeud 2 was created over 7 years since 2017 when Neofeud 1 came out. I've been working on Neofeud 2. So over that time, the story, things that were written in like 2017 or 2018 have changed, mutated, characters, things I wrote a long time ago. It's not always completely consistent or like 6 years later. And so I have to make sure that sometimes even like names I was calling a corporation like Bisberg or Bizon or Bazon. At one point there was a Bezos, and I was like, probably should change that. It shouldn't be exactly the same. There was a Klington Bush with a Buschsch family in Neofeud 1. There was the Koch with a C, Koch, Coch Jobs with 2 B's. It's a joke on Steve Jobs and the Koch family, right? But I try to make it. It's not exactly the same family, so I spell they're not exactly the same. Koch family, Jobs, Steve Jobs. It's not the Clintons with Hillary Clinton and George W. Bush, right? But there's definitely, like, you get the point. They are fantasy characters. They are made up, science fictional, imaginary families, corporations, and characters. I can't claim that no billionaires were harmed in making of Neofeud, because maybe some people will believe less in their capitalist system, but the characters are. But anyways, but as I'm making up these names for characters, I'm like getting, like, on the screen it says like illegal existence on planet Bizon is punishable by violent bodily fluid recycling. So this is a scene from Neofeud 2. So I called the Bizon the planet like Bazon, and then it was like Bizonia, and I'm like I have to make everything. I'm making everything consistent, and some things like I needed to cut because they don't make sense anymore. Characters have the plot pieces of the plot like have changed. So anyway, long story short, I'm editing the entire game right now. I'm a little bit past halfway point in that it's taking a little bit longer than I would like. I wish I was getting voice actor. I cannot do the next phase, which is putting out the casting call for voice actors for Neofeud 2. I cannot do the voice acting casting call for Neofeud 2 because I need to finalize the script with all the lines of dialogue. Right, it's basically like the Hollywood screenplay, you know, with every single line that every character will say. I need to have that all finalized because I don't want to send out the screenplay, right, and say, okay, voice actors, lube up your pipes or wet your whistles, do your mixolydian vocal scales or whatever you happen to do. It's time to voice act for Neofeud 2, right? I don't want to send out the casting call and then give people the lines and then, oh my gosh, I have to change the script. And so when people have already recorded the voice lines, I then go, oh my gosh, that line was wrong. Can you go and read this line instead? So you know what I'm saying, right? So I got to finalize all the lines of the script, which means editing all these errors or not errors, just fixes, changes, removals, additions that need to be made. Once that's done, then I'm gonna send out the script. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do for the music. Music's not done yet. I still may have someone else do the music. If that's the case, then I will. The Silver Spook cooperatives. What we do is. Depending on how much people put into the game on Neofeud 1, they get back an appropriate amount of money as a percentage of their total contribution. So, for example, like I put in the vast majority of the work on Neofeud 1, but some voice actors put in 1% of the total. I calculated by the total, approximately the total hours worked on Neofeud 1. So if a voice actor put in 1% of the hours worked as a total, then they will get in perpetuity, basically forever, 1% of all of the revenue from Steam sales, itch sales, etc. And so I usually pay that I pay that out at different intervals depending on how much money is to be paid out. It's kind of like Amazon, Twitch pays out. If you're in excess of $50 or $100, they will issue a payment to your PayPal or your bank account, right? So for Neofeud, so Neofeud 2, when I talked about the democratized Silver Spook cooperative, that's another way that that is part of the democratization in my view is to make sure that anybody who worked on the game gets what they put into the game, and not people who invest in the Silver Spook company, right, make money based upon having money that's part of in my view, that's part of what makes it a non-capitalist cooperative democratized workplace, is that and a fair space as well, egalitarian, is that the people should be paid also. What exactly is fair gets complicated. Is a senior programmer deserving of more pay than a tester who just started and has no experience, right? I mean, that's who is more and less valuable. I calculated actually the QA people on Neofeud and on Silver Spook games make the most money per hour of anyone, more so than me, the senior. I'm the senior programmer, I'm the lead designer, I'm the founder, I'm the not the CEO, but I'm the founder, started Silver Spook Games. And the most junior personnel, the most junior workers on Neofeud make the most because they just put in their time. Or the voice actors make more than me per hour because they put in their 10, they put in their 10, 40 or whatever, 30 hours, right? And they get exactly that, right? I put in 2.5 years. It's a lot of hours. It's thousands of hours, right? So I put in thousands of hours. I put in thousands of hours. I have to put in more thousands of hours or hundreds of hours. I don't know how long. I put in many hours a week marketing Neofeud. I don't count that. I don't count that into the payouts for voice actors and the QA testers, right? So my total pay is like actually dropping every week, right? Per hour I put in, because I don't, so and that's what I prefer. That's better, because then nobody, I want everybody to have the best. If the people that have the least amount of agency like at least get more than me, then it's then it cannot possibly be unfair to them. What I don't want to do is mistreat people because their work is less, or they are not as visible, or also like Holly does a lot of work in care work and cooking and cleaning and making sure managing things here at the Social Cooperative, doing tech support and stuff like that. And and so we're like a family here. So one day when you have full communism is when you just have family, the whole world operates like a family, right? Which is you don't like not give people things. You don't like starve, like you say, wait, you don't starve your partner or your children, right? You shouldn't starve children in Africa to extract imperial capitalist wealth from them, right? But we're not there yet, right? So one day, that's the indigenous future, is when the indigenous socialist future is when everybody just like civilized countries and civilized nations and civilized peoples, everybody treats each other like family. But like until then, we have like formal contractuals. You have exactly the percent of revenue based upon your total hours put in that's equal to everybody else. I mean that's just the way that we operate. That we try to adhere to that at all times as best as possible. I dovetailed that off of talking about Neofeud 2, which is to say that the voice actors, because I started talking about voice actors. The voice actors will be coming up next. The music, and then once I finish the voice acting and the music, then I have to finish testing the game, and then it will be done. So I know I said I would try to get Neofeud 2. I know I said I would try to get Neofeud 2 completed by the end of this year, right? I said you could stuff Neofeud 2 in your holographic Steam stockings of all your comrades and friends and fellow game players. I apologize that may not happen, because I don't know if I can get music, voice acting, and testing done in December, but it is going as fast as possible. I still have to finalize the script. I don't really know how long it will take. It's like I'm getting through, like there is approximately 90 rooms or levels, 90 separate. Well, in the Adventure Game Studio engine, there's 90 separate areas, and each one, I'm going through them, playing through them, like checking the dialogue, checking the descriptions, right, making sure everything is correct, and I'm going through like 1, 2. Sometimes if I get lucky, I get through 5 or more in a day. I'm like about 45, 50 rooms completed. So I have about a little bit less than half to go through now. Some of them are harder than others, because some of them are like, oh wow, that section needs to be completely rewritten or like heavily modified because of how the plot has changed. But sometimes I can just like blaze right through it, because I'm just like, oh yeah, this room is just mostly just fine. I just I misspelled singularity and hyper interdimensional transcombobulation wrong, and sometimes I just made up a word, so you can't even tell, right? I made up amphibiologism, right? Which is a combination of those are frogs who are professional language specialists, amphibiologists. You see what I just did there? I just made that word up, and now you can't tell me that I misspelled it, because I manufactured that word from my neurons just now. And I want 20% of our kids are watching Amphibia. That's why I think out of that. I want 20% of the amphibologist PBS documentary in case anybody makes a TV show using that word. This is a great thing about being a science fiction author. Is great because you can land grab digital neo-linguistic real estate before people even think of these words, like Neofeud. Anyways, I'm gonna stop being extra meta and silly, because all the people will leave my stream. McLovin says, how many lines changed in one based on the performances, if any? Sorry, I should go back and look at this chat. I will answer the question. I'm supposed to be answering questions now, so let me go through this. Yeah, thanks a lot to McLovin. It is huge, yes. Grant says, stopping by for a bit. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Anarchy 69 says, I'd be honored to... Dr. Anarchy 69 says, I am really excited to audition for roles, getting back into acting after a decade off. Well, yeah, congratulations. Good to see you also. And good luck on your new voice acting journey. I would be honored to be a voice actress for a Silver Spoon production. Yeah, you know, I mean, that's definitely a thing that can happen because I'm going to be looking for them soon, as I said. How many lines changed in one based on the performances, if any? Okay, that's a question. How many lines changed in Neofeud to Neofeud 1, if any? How many lines did change on Neofeud 1? Neofeud 1 has 74,000 lines, words of dialogue in it. I once had them all memorized. I would recite them in the shower, in my sleep. I'll wake up and I'll be talking about the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth. I would just start going off on. I would just Holly knows. Holly had to sit through all this. Holly had to voice act several characters in Neofeud 1. This is Neofeud 1, by the way. So in Neofeud 1, I don't know the exact number of lines that were redone. You know, actually, with Neofeud 1, I edited very little of the script. Neofeud 1, I somehow just wrote it, and it mostly just, you know, I didn't really do a lot of going back and editing, but I don't know. Maybe I was more confident about what I was exactly doing in Neofeud 1. Neofeud 2, there's a lot of new things I'm trying. I'm not sure. I was experimenting with a lot of things I have not done before. Neofeud 1, actually, Neofeud 1 was all new, but Neofeud 1 is very cyberpunk, and it's very surreal. I know it when you play Neofeud, it's not like Shadowrun, it's not like Blade Runner exactly, it's not like Deus Ex, it has Game of Thrones like elements, but it's definitely not Game of Thrones. It's not a fantasy, it is a unique thing, but in my head it seems like everything in Neofeud is like very familiar to me in my own strange brain, you know, like I know who the $6 billion, I know who the slightly Roy Batty looking Walter White, right, scientist genius that invents artificial consciousness, but is also forced into Breaking Bad, cooking meth because capitalists don't want to pay scientists and respect scientists, right? And so he's like drug dealing. I knew exactly who that character was. I didn't have to think about editing it very much. Like I was just like, oh, I know who that guy is. I actually, it's really hard for me to explain this stuff. When I say it out loud, it sounds really like, what? How could you know who that person is? This is something about writing though, which is that like, when you're writing, like when you can talk about characters like they're in your living room, and you could say oh well, you know, if this happened to Carl, I know exactly what Carl or Protege or Princess Sybil, I know exactly what they would do. You know, you think of them like friends in your head. Like being a good writer is a form of mental illness. No, being a good writer, maybe it is, depending on who's doing the diagnosing. Being a good writer is like having many imaginary friends in your head, that you talk to and you have lively conversations with, and you have imaginary worlds in your head. Well, particularly with fiction, you know. But no. I mean, if you're writing any kind of science fiction, fantasy fiction, you know, and then when you know that you're really there when you're able to like just describe characters, like they are your friends or your family members, right? And you're like, I know exactly what they're gonna do. I know why they're doing that at that time. It's this weird trick, right? It's a weird trick, and so anyway, Neofeud 1, I felt like I was. It was very, I don't know. It was easier. It was very. This is a long answer to your question. I gotta stop. But I was very familiar with all the characters and what they were doing, and what they would do, and the story was like there are parts where I was a little bit. I'm not sure where this is gonna go, but I never felt like stuck. I didn't have a lot of writer's block on Neofeud 1 for some reason. I don't know why. I actually had more painter's block than anything else because I was newer to art. And Neofeud 1, it's a very like grungy, you know, it's very punk art style, obviously. Some people don't necessarily like that, but you know, it is what it is. If it was more polished, it could be too corporate and too smooth, you know. Like you know. So, but anyways, so to answer your question, there was very, very little rewriting of lines for Neofeud 1. Yes. Neofeud 2 has more. Like I did play through the game, but I didn't really go through and like change big parts of Neofeud 1. Neofeud 2 I have to go back and change. Another factor is Neofeud 2 was created over 7 years. Neofeud 1 was created over 2.5 years. So it's a longer time span in between. Anyways. Let me look at the questions here. Colin says, Rad, excited to pick these up a bit late, so I'll have to rewatch to see the best platform to do so. If you that's kind of a question. So if you get Neofeud 1 on you get Neofeud 1 on itch.io. If you get Neofeud 1 on itch.io, it is the best deal because well, it's not the best deal. It's the maximum revenue comes to us because itch has the best cut of the major platforms. Is I don't know if it's, I forget if we can say that as developers or not. But anyway, so the maximum revenue comes to the developers when you buy it there. You can also choose to pay a little bit extra or as much as you want extra when you buy the game. But many people use Steam. They like to use Steam. It's a huge popular platform. So like, you know, you buy wherever, you will end up getting it. Yeah. You can also get the standalone version on itch. Like, it's just the executable that you can have on your computer. It's not tied to having to sign up to a tech company, which some people like. But you know, some people like Steam because of the options and added bells and whistles you get from it. Yes. I hope that answered McLovin's question. That was a very spiralic answer, I think is the term. Maybe not. I don't care. Our topic site I mentioned last week was okay. Oh, that's something else. Yeah. I think you should give yourself an A for every year you worked on this. What is? I miss it. I think you should give yourself an A for every year you worked on this. The world's first septuple A game. Septuple A's. That's like 7 A's. I don't know if you know, I don't know if I ever got that many A's in 6th grade, man. I don't know. Like math, science, you know, social studies, 7 A's. 7A game. I definitely don't have as much money, even anywhere close to as much money as a vice president or even like a upper management of a AAA game company. So I don't know how I got to. I don't know how I'm gonna get to 7As when I barely have the capitalism. I don't have the 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 capitalist validation tokens or whatever they call it to get to single A. So, but you know, maybe when you make games that, you know, eventually the A's wrap back around, and 7As is when you make games that, you know, make like $60,000 or less, right? Is that if septuple A games means making less than is septuple A games means making less than the price of a cinnamon chai dolce latte at Starbucks, because man, those things are expensive now, then that we are a septuple A game company. But yes, yeah, but it was a single A. Well, Neofeud 1 was short. Neofeud 2 took longer because partially Neofeud 2 did take longer because it was a new thing I was trying. Neofeud 2 is let me put the Neofeud 2 trailer up here since I'm talking about it. Neofeud 2 is a game that is much broader in its scope. Is the trailer for it. Neofeud 2 is a game that's much broader in its scope. It's much more expansive, right? Neofeud 1 encompasses like essentially like 10 miles squared, right? It's like being in downtown Manhattan, but it's like, you know, Manhattan crossed with the worst parts of the Mumbai slum, a shadow city, in India, a Brazilian favela, Skid Row, and, you know, the place where everybody had uranium and radioactivity tested on them in London. You know what I'm saying? Which is the thing they did. Basically, the poorest areas to the richest areas, like the multi-$100 million Bloomberg penthouse suite areas, the highest of the high street, Windsor Palace of Britain, the Burj Khalifa summit, and you know, the Indian pharmaceutical company executives who live on the highest of the high floors and fly in helicopters, right? So Neofeud is like all taking place inside of a megalopolis, like a big, you know, but still it's like a mega city, but it's like one place, right? And you go from the poorest to the richest in that place. It has a huge landfill sprawl outside of it, right? So it's like the shadow cities. But like in Neofeud 2, it goes across the entire galaxy. So, right, Neofeud 2 is like, Neofeud 1 is like 10 miles wide. Neofeud 2 is like multi-100,000 light years wide. You know what I mean? So it's complicated. But that was like, how do you even tell that story? Was a question. I mean, like obviously there exists Space Quest. There's Star Trek, right? But I had not done. And Neofeud 2 isn't. It's obviously it has cyberpunk elements. It has like, you know, dystopian elements, but it also has this like expansive, more expansive universe in it, right? So that trying to make the transgalactic and the dystopian urban cyberpunk comes together, like how to do that. There's many things are happening. There's that. There's an indigenous, like Native American, Native Pacific Islander, which I am, and also like ancient African and ancient Asian civilization, right? It's like a super advanced indigenous civilization, right? They have like it's like if Hawaiians had traditional rock wall building canoes, but also like star canoes, or like warp gates, right? So like figuring out what that people is like, that's part of the intergalactic setting. Figuring out what that people is like, that was very difficult. Like that like just to figure out what that was like was like I had to really like, you know, I said Neofeud 1. What is the Bruce, you know, what is Carl Carbon, right? The Bruce Willis look-alike. You know, what is the Bruce Willis look-alike with a cyborg arm, with a Nintendo Power Glove, a broken Nintendo Power Glove ripoff, malfunctioning cyber arm, who's smoking DRM cigarettes, right? That like cut him off after 10 seconds. I know exactly what that's like. I mean, it sounds weird, but I know exactly what that's like. But like, what is like a trans-dimensional indigenous civilization like that has Native American patterns on the side of 2 Mile High hyper renewable skyscrapers? Like, that was slightly harder, you know. That was slightly harder to envision. And so that took longer. Right? And also, like, how do you bring super advanced collectivist renewable, like, it's beyond solar punk indigenous socialist civilization that spans entire galaxies? What does that have? How do they interact with imperial capitalist, just like completely messed up, like the Neofeud 1 world, right? How does the Neofeud 1 ultra rich dynastic hell society interact with this other, you know, anti-capitalist indigenous society? That was like a whole just figuring out the language to describe that was it was harder, because it does, like, that doesn't exist. Like, well, obviously Neofeud 1 didn't exist before and it's new, but in my head it all makes sense. And like, what Game of Thrones, right, having like the Tyrell dynasty, having like the Tyrell, and having the having the Game of Thrones houses, right, like the Lannisters, like these feudal powerful families fighting over control of Europe, right, in Westeros in the Game of Thrones, and like just transposing knights for militarized cops, transposing Tyrell Wayland Yutanis for the Lannisters, right, and the kings and the queens. That was like obvious to me, right? Corporate dynasties instead of feudal dynasties, right? Like knights turned into cops. Your landlord in the feudal world turns into your landlord. It's the same word, right? So like feudalism, Euro 1500s and 21st century dystopian America is the same thing, right? It's very, to other people it's less obvious, but to me it was like that. I was like, I know how to do that. But with Neofeud 2, it's like, okay, how do we have this civilization interact with that one? It was there isn't any in my head. It was like there was no. I feel like there isn't really a clear blueprint for that, because it doesn't exist. You know, it doesn't really exist. We have Star Wars, which is it's ostensibly, it's about resisting an empire, right? But it's basically it's a retelling of, as George Lucas said, ultimately it's a kind of half. It's a very, 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 very shrouded retelling of the Vietnam era, right? From somebody who was, against the Vietnam War, like many people were. That exists. What that is, right? Star Trek is, a lot of the science fiction, but it's like this basic staple of science fictional stories. What if we have powerful computers? Let's have a, international rules-based order run from a federation of very very of international UN peacekeepers. It's very like it's like the UN in space, with various science fiction, right? So there's like, that's kind of known what is a Star Trek universe, but like Neofeud 2 is doing, I'm trying to do something else. At least I feel like it's doing something else. That's why it's so hard though, right? Because even knowing what is a native indigenous socialist super advanced civilization like, right, it's complicated, because like so much of what people think is a Native American, a Native Hawaiian, what people think Africans and Asians and other peoples, that non-European peoples, right, historically colonized peoples, that is so wrapped up in all kinds of propaganda, right? And so like disentangling that, also even like knowing who you are, because I'm a Native Hawaiian, but I was raised as an American in a capitalist American consumerist society, right? And I know we have Hawaiians here, but it's all of it is so warped, right? Because we are contested territory. I mean, as a U.S. occupied by U.S. empire for unsinkable aircraft carrier characteristics, right, to project power across the world. It's the Indo-Pacific Command. That's why Pearl Harbor, all those ships are here, right? People that have accumulated capital and they put that into huge militaries, obviously through the mega channels of the United States, and the military industrial complex. So, anyways, well, long story short, that's why like Neofeud 1 is like felt more obvious to me. Neofeud 2, Neofeud 1 is kind of like, these are many problems with having these giant corporations, having this capitalistic system, having all these things, right? That are, many of these are lived experiences. As a homeless Native Hawaiian living in my own land, teaching kids that are getting shot and arrested by cops on a regular basis, and then watching them all get signed off and thrown into catastrophic wars in Iraq and etc. When they turn 18. So that's like, I'm just like describing, right? It's like, I call it stylized journalism. This is just like, this is what is, right? This is just the United States as I see it. This is the capitalist system. This is an imperial system. This is the prison industrial complex, right? This is we know what feudalism is. It's historical, right? Or most people kind of know, right? This is what, this is what that was. This is how that overlays over the Western capitalist colonial system. Neo-feudalism, right? Now, Neo-feud is new, but like each of those things are like 1400s Britain and 2100s America is both well understood, right? But Neofeud 2, I feel like I'm explaining this too many times. I'm sorry. Neofeud 2 is not well understood. To me, Neofeud 2 is not well understood. It has to be. It really had to be constructed, not from whole cloth, but it really had to be constructed. It had to be disentangled, and it had to be constructed from. It was just like, I remember like sitting there while I was working on Neofeud 2, and just like, I don't know what to even write right now. I don't know how to say what I need to say right now. I remember, like, I really got stuck at points, right? So it took a bit longer. Like writing the billion-year-old. This is also the billion-year-old alien race that live in 26 dimensions. So that also makes it a bit trickier. But it's science fiction. So other people have had to deal with similar problems. There's the Q. There's the there's Cylons. There's they have there's Jodie Foster talked to galactic warp aliens in Contact. They mostly just look like her dad, and they're on a sandy beach with more stars in the sky, right? So like science fiction has but I haven't written like Star Trek ish sci-fi stuff. I wrote more cyberpunk before I start. I wrote like post-apocalyptic and like cyberpunk speculative fiction before Neofeud, but I didn't do a lot of Star Trek-y stuff. So that was like that was part of it. But the hardest part was like, how do I like, okay, I'm gonna describe this. This is a billion-year-old indigenous communist people. What happens if somebody asks about the stock market? What do they say, right? What are the reference points to even talk about that? Well, we don't, we banned those like 700 million years ago, when our current red giant star was still yellow. We banned pyramid schemes, commodity speculation, buying and selling of real estate, and so we don't really do that anymore. So those are like, I have to like figure out like how to talk about that kind of stuff. Let me look at the questions before I go too far into my own brain. Let me see. I can see getting folks necessary to take care of what is desired being difficult to come by in the coming months for a variety of labor, political, epidemiological reasons. Yeah, getting. I hope that people are not. I did a long stream last week about taking the precautions due to those mass medical problem reasons, illness, sickness, mass, large quantities of sickness reasons. I hope people are as safe as possible. The good thing about voice acting, at least if you are for some reason ill and you need to be homebound, voice acting is a thing you can do from most places. Thank goodness. You can do it from, please don't voice act. Please don't voice act next to a train station, beside like a rock concert, while people are jackhammering with the construction crews. Please try to minimize the noise if possible. I know that can be hard. I mean, I say that jokingly, but I know that can be tricky. I just keep playing the Neofeud trailer, but I don't know what else to play. But I know that can be tricky. But it's voice acting is a thing you can do from most places. You don't even have to be on camera, so I'm not too worried about that. There are many voice actors out there in the world, thankfully. The way that I cast Neofeud 1 was I didn't cast like who is the most famous or cool voice actor. I don't have a lot of money. I mean we didn't get like Tara Strong, famous Cartoon Network voice actress, to show up for Neofeud. Obviously we don't have that kind of budget. We don't have any budget. Well, we pay the people based upon after we make money. We have a lot of money to be giving out at any given time. But if people if people really got the characters, if people really understood what Neofeud was trying to do, what the character was trying to do, that was how I kind of cast people. The Disco Elysium creators also basically said the same thing. The Zaum, that's now apparently broken up, or they're having big problems, I know, or they had big problems. I don't know where they're at now, and they kind of fell apart, and a lot of the original creators got screwed by those colonial, those money grubbing, those money grubbing, stock slubbing, nasty people. I think that's what happened. But anyway, Disco Elysium creator said that it's also Disco Elysium is similar to Neofeud because we have very left-leaning devs. I think the Game Awards 2020 or 2019 Game Awards, the Disco Elysium creators got kicked off stage for thanking Marx and Engels. That was funny. Anyways, so what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. I was supposed to answer the question about getting creators. So but they did say that like the Disco Elysium creators did say that they would they didn't have voice acting. Neofeud is similar is also because there's a lot of the game is dealing with the text, the story, like the world, right? I think Hassan Abi, the streamer, said Disco Elysium was a really great book because it was basically a guy's novel that he turned into a video game because games sell better than novels nowadays. No, it's not just, but I think he did say like I have to compete with Twitter because I'm a bookseller, and Disco Elysium is my interactive book. Anyway. I should stop talking about other people's games. It is a great game. You should play that one as well. But Neofeud definitely deals with the script and the text a lot, and so trying to find characters, people that will really bring the character to life is how I tend to cast the. I mean, it doesn't really matter like how, like your quality of mic and the voice, varies. How quote unquote good your voice is, but it's really like, do you understand the character? Do you like get what I was trying to do? That's the most important thing. Even like how good your acting is. There's as the great game dev Warren Spector, creator, lead showrunner on Deus Ex once said, in games we call things mature, those which are most adolescent. And I think the way that people think of good voice acting, which is, that's historically, it's been like, if you sound like a cool dude like Arnold or something. Good graphics is like when people's brains explode in very realistic, goopy, like molecular accurate ways. It's a very childish way you look at what is good graphics, good art, right? Good graphics does not equal good art. And so like, anyway, this is a kind of an aside that I'm just going off on right now, but that's why I do the voice acting, is like, how are people going to be able to sell the jokes and the central, because Neofeud is not just it's not, I'm not like other games. Sounds like some weird cool girl from 2004. Neofeud is not like other games though. Neofeud is a game that is doing a lot of things on a lot of levels. Neofeud is a very meta game. It's a game about Neofeud is a cyberpunk game about cyberpunk games, right? Neofeud is a fantasy feudalism game about the entire Western world, right? It's a feudal game about the feudal system and about the modern neo-feudal system at the same time, right? With night cops and king CEOs, right? Neofeud is a game that has, Fifth Element. It's a very millennial core-ish, not postmodern, because that's like something from the mid 20th centuries, but that's what you call people who get paid too much money to do BS art. But sometimes, but it's like, it's definitely like a game that is like very much like operating on a satirical level. It's not a mockumentary, right? Because it's not just a mocking of Blade Runner, right? Or it's not just a homage. There is a send there. I do a lot of send ups and references, but it's dealing like with like people's expectations of the, like, I was just reading this essay about Hatoful Boyfriend, and orc dating simulator, and like there are some similarities to that. Neofeud is not a dating game, but it's like, it's a game that is about, it deals with the expectations within, it deals with the general world and various topics of politics, race, gender, but also is like Hatoful Boyfriend is a game that's like about the dating games themselves, and so Neofeud is like about, in part, the cyberpunk genre itself. It's also about the world, but it's also about expectations of people. Neofeud is a game about expectations people have about cyberpunk, right? Like, your cyber arm is going to be a super cool, awesome, ninja blade shooting, like razor sharp mantis armed weapon, right? And it's just like a broken letter opener that malfunctions, and you're really disabled, and being a really disabled, so like, paradoxically, in the transhuman cyberpunk era, where you're supposed to become superhumans, right, by getting Adam Jensen, Cyberpunk 2077, right, really cool augmentations in your eyes that can project Keanu Reeves' ghost for some reason, basically because billionaires in Poland wanted to talk to Keanu Reeves. That's why. And so that's what Cyberpunk 2077 has, Keanu Reeves inside of your brain, talking to you inside of your side brain, right? So, but instead of like getting cool 90s uncanceled Hollywood stars in your brain, instead of running like 50 miles per hour with like cheetah grade metal legs, right? Instead of becoming superhuman in Neofeud, you just get more and more, get more and more disabled, right? The more cyber stuff you put into your body, right? Like, Carl Carbon's arm is like a cyber truck, overpriced, under delivering, just like everything the West does. Overpriced, breaks, and then you can't do shit, right? Rusts out too fast. There's no replacement parts, right? And then he's like, "Sir, I'm sorry, I almost got into a car crash, and can I please get some medical assistance can I get some cyborg Medicare for all?" And your boss is like, "No. If your arm falls apart, we'll replace you with a not broken tool. There will be a new cog in the Leviathan." of this corporate capitalist hellscape. If you break, go to the medically assured in death department and disappear from reality, right? If you break, right? If you get long C word, if you break, go into the place where nobody listens to you anymore when you are extremely disabled, and you start raining on their parade, right? And asking for people to take mass illness seriously, right? If you break, that's your fault. Even though the corporation made the product that you are using, that is now your body. Your body is the product, right? In Neofeud 2, your brain is the product too. Anyway. Okay, let me look down this. Okay, I spent a lot of time on that. Let me move down. Excited to pick this up. I don't remember the script changing much from a voice actor perspective. Oh, also I forgot you said the labor. Yeah, if you are, there have been so many game layoffs. It's really terrible. So if you have been laid off, one of the comments from Colin, I think, was about game layoffs. There has been record game layoffs. Cloud Imperium Games lets go some staff on CitizenCon 2024. Saw more video game industry layoffs than all of 2023, and that was only in June. So my condolences if you have been let go at a game company. You got screwed out of your severance. All kind of, it's just nightmarish. Working, if you really want to know the horrors of dystopian cyberpunk, work at a AAA game company. Work at most game companies, really. Especially all the corporate capitalist ones. You work at it is some of the worst conditions. Now, obviously the worst conditions if you're like mining blood-covered minerals in Congo or Sudan. That's worst conditions. But like, when it comes to like inside the U.S. or somewhere like that, working at a game company, for many reasons, it's actually the game world, the software world is central to Empire today. Actually, there's a book called Open World Empire, and I'm working with them. I was in a book called Made in Asia America that deals directly with this problem. And also the games industry, it has so many people that want to be in it. So many people play games and but want to be in the game industry. That bushy-eyed, doe-eyed, bushy-tailed young people want to get in the game industry. Is so exploitative. And then also now generative AI is plagiarism software / what was the other term for it? Stochastic. Crap! I can't remember what it is. I think it was the Wachowski term for generative. But the Gen AI plagiarism software, stochastic theft. I forget what it is. And it's also uses hyper exploited labor in the global south to train it. That's actually, the training is done actually, a lot of it by like underpaid Kenyan labor for the AI. Those are then used by the game companies to replace a lot of workers, and further harming the worker power, worker pay, and worker livelihood. It's really horrible, and the games industry is like, it was already bad, and then it's just gotten worse. So yeah, that really is rough. This is also not good. This is not good. Just trying to find an article about it. This is also not good for art in general, because when you have generative AI, that's something else, but Netflix invests in generative AI for games after closing studios. So this is not good for art and humanity in general, because the more that you use, somebody point out, like, when you outsource your thinking, your intellectual work, your creative work, your artistic work to an artificial intelligence, plagiarism software, to steal other work, you are weakening, you are eroding your own ability, your voice, to create your perspective. Like I said, to create Neofeud 1 and 2, it was a lot of work. Like it was a lot of intellectual work. It was a lot of creative work. It was a lot of researching. It was a lot of thinking. But going through the process of thinking and working and struggling, right? What does a billion-year-old alien say to a robotic ex-imperial stormtrooper from the Star-Spangled Roman Space Empire, right? Like, you know, just to figure out what it was I trying to do with that. Like, that's like that was like a lot of mental work, and it was hard. It took me 7 years. But like in like Neofeud 1, what does the half human, half cyborg cop say to the ex-trillionaire socialist princess that's trying to overthrow her daddy in his floating space palace, right? That was a lot of work to think about what am I trying to do? What you know, who are these people? But like, if I didn't do that, if I just said AI here, ChatGPT, Sora, Stable Diffusion, right? Video game AI. Here's your prompt is make me a game with princesses and cyberpunk robots. Cyborg dudes, cyberpunk robot criminals, and floating princesses. Right? Everything. I mean, it's also like, you know, my life would have been impoverished. You know, like human life. Like, I mean, like, it's hard, but to make new, but like, it is part of like what is fulfilling in my life. Like, I don't regret doing it, even though, like, you know, at points we were like struggling to eat, you know, struggling to live, to pay bills while making it. I do not regret for a second going through the process of making my life in art in Neofeud, right? If I was to give that to an AI, I mean, I just like, that's just like that would evaporate like huge chunks of the pleasure and the joy in my life, and it'll also like destroy like much of who I am as a person, you know. So to picture billions of young children, right, who are looking, or young people looking at their future going, I'm gonna get good at make me robot space princess cyberpunk, and that's their whole future. That is so depressing, because they're gonna miss out on some of the best joys in life, which is like working through difficult problems, incorporating your entire life and your history into your art, into whatever you're doing. Not have to be art, and like and expressing that, having people play and enjoy that, reflect your art back to you. Like that's a future where Gen AI replaces art and entertainment, video games and movies is a fate worse than death. Like that's like it almost would be better if it just people cease to exist. It just, you know, not exactly, but it's like a horrible fate. You know, it's more dystopian than most people would have imagined, you know, except maybe When the Machine Stops by Ian Forster sometime at the end of the 19th century. Anyways, but this has now become a Silver Spook Gen AI rant / high speed, very high volume education, not rant. I never rant. I don't know why anybody would say that. Anyways, let me look at the chat instead of just going off. Okay, I'm gonna answer every single question. Credits for Neofeud 1 2017. I just started going off on just random little side bits of somebody's comment. I just went off for like 15 minutes. I don't remember the script changing much from a voice actor perspective. I voice acted multiple characters in Neofeud 1. I remember complaining about the sci-fi words though. Yeah, I made Holly say all kind of sci-fi words. I made Holly like say like I can't remember all the sci-fi words, you know. It's like the super positor, you know, it's like an ovipositor but for soup. You know, it's like, oh my god, I had so much minestrone. Where am I gonna put it? Oh, with this new brand spanking device, the superpositor, you can posit your soup wherever you want. I guess it's just a butt. Never mind. Um, that's not what a superpositor is. One morning I played. Wait, let me look this up. Okay. One morning. The one MMORPG I played just fired a ton of experienced people due to a merge with a German company just in time for the holidays, says Colin. Yeah, I mean, seasonal mass firing is very common indeed, yes. On top of Gen AI. No AI can replicate my skills as a performer. It doesn't have the extreme dedication to the craft, the intuition, the comedic training, the ability to spontaneously create characters and scenes. Yeah, that's one of the big problems with generative AI is that it people whose lives are, I would argue, like lessened because of their lack of understanding what it is. Everybody should like have have some experience with creating art, of some kind, and so and also because that would help give people respect for the craft of acting, voice acting, painting, drawing, costuming, directing, writing, etc., making music. Right? If you understand what it actually is, because you can like look, you can watch some movies and watch some shows, but you might not really understand, right, what it is to create and like the positive, why people even create, because the act of the creation itself, the consumption, yes, but then also the creation itself is a hugely fulfilling, joyful part, edifying part of life. Like I don't know what I mean. I spend more time making games than playing them, in part because I like making them. As hard as it can be hard, but when you look back at it, it's kind of like anything that is worth doing is at least in some part is going to require some struggle, and part of that is from playing games, because you like getting to like a harder part of a Mario level and then having to work at being able to beat. Oh man, I gotta really time that jump better. And when you finally do it, you like, there's like a sense of like accomplishment because you were able, and you put work in, and you can see that, oh, now I got better at that, and now I completed that. Like getting better at a skill, right? And so part of art is that's a whole fulfillment in that. There's the communication of what you want to say, feeling heard, feeling seen, that you in a way that you can't just by walking down the street sometimes, right? Being recognized in your in your creative pursuits. There's community to be had in this stuff, in the creation and all that stuff. Anyway, so there's like AI. When people think, oh well, if I have an AI that generates art, it's this is equivalent to having artists. We don't need them in the world. We'll just look at pictures that kind of look like chiaroscuro, or we'll have movies that kind of look like, I don't know, Royal Tenenbaums or a Star Wars. The people that believe that that's the sum total of art, they are missing parts of themselves, I would argue. Probably because they got an MBA from Harvard, or they hang around in the stonks area of Reddit too much. They're like only technical, only single-minded, business-driven. Like Holly's watching this drama, this C-drama that has many characters like that. Only focused on one thing, right? Or only focused on the making of money, right? Or not really thinking, or only focused on like trying to get some kind of recognition from people for the art, right? Like people who just only put words into their prompts, and then, right? But they don't really know what it's like to actually get to actually create and paint. They just know what it's like for other people to say you did a good job, like Elon Musk. It doesn't create anything. He just gets other people to clap for him while he does nothing useful, right? But Elon, he has Grok, right, on his Twitter, right? And but capitalism takes from the billionaire as well. Like they don't, the rich don't, and the powerful under a capitalist system don't know what it's like to get skilled at and to fully explore who they are in art. Like Elon is a stunted human. He is an incomplete person, I would argue, because he has not grown up in many ways. He's still an emerald diapered baby, but he hasn't like learned what it's like to to get actually skilled at a thing, to struggle and then get good at a thing, because he can always buy other people's labor to fulfill whatever he wants, except being actually interesting and funny on Twitter, or except actually being actually skilled. You can't buy that, right? You have to go through the process of painstakingly picking up the pen or the Wacom tablet. You have to go through the process of like trying. You also have to go through the process of like listening to others, which you don't do under a capitalist system as the top. Other people take your instructions, right? And he doesn't really know what it's like to really listen to other people, right? Elon selectively listens, like all capitalists generally do, to people who say what they want to hear, and then they reward them with some dollars, right? And so you surround yourself with sycophants under a neo-feudal system, and and that's how you get the capitalist world. That's your dystopia. Anyways, I'm just spinning in all these directions. Let me move forward with this. It's 1:21. I gotta go soon. Anyway, so Neofeud 2 State of the Union / Disunion. So the state of the Disunion is that the state of the game, if you didn't get it earlier, is that Neofeud 2 is nearly done. I only have I have to edit and finalize less than half of the game script. Then I will send that out to voice actors. I'm gonna do a casting call and look for voice actors, and then I'm gonna complete or have someone else do the music for Neofeud 2, and then I gotta basically add the little intro, credits, title screen, and then test the game, and then that will be done. And release date, I do not have a release date yet. It looks like unlikely that it will be, unfortunately, the end of this year. But it really depends on how long all of this takes. But the actual gameplay, like start to finish, is done. It's just like the polishing and then adding in audio and stuff, basically. So yeah, don't forget to go grab your Neofeud. Don't forget Neofeud 1 is on sale. Every sale, as I said, does help us finish the sequel. As I said, Gerald Horne Neofeud is like if Gerald Horne made video games. So that's really nice. Anybody who doesn't know who look up Gerald Horne if you don't know who that is. Well, that's not necessarily related. Yeah, so don't forget to grab Neofeud on sale right now, which is on sale this week. If you appreciate the stream and what we do here, consider if you want to directly support us through ko-fi.com/silverspook. Give us the most percentage of the money is going to come to us if you directly support us through Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/silverspook. It's only like it's a 1% take, I think, of the company, so we get 99% of it. And this really does help us out to keep on working on these games, and of course doing these streams, doing this Silver Spook cooperative work of various kinds, including here in Hawaii at the Silver Spook Worker Cooperative, restoring the land and the pluricrop gardens and such that we have here. I'm also working on here's a little sneak peek of something I'm working on. As part of art, this is a paid project that I'm working on outside of Neofeud, because I'm done with the art basically of Neofeud, and so to not allow my Wacom Photoshop painting skills to rust like Carl Carbon's arm, I am currently working on more. It just happens to be at this time I'm working on contracted art to wow, this Photoshop is really my Photoshop is really angry at me right now. It didn't like that I opened it up. I'm currently working on covers for other other people's books, among other things, and that's really that's been a new learning process. Speaking of learning, that's been a new learning process. Is like how I have art that has been used on book covers. I have made book covers before, but this was like a in-depth back and forth of designing a cover with like several I forget what the name for it is in the industry. But here is a book cover I have made. So I can get this in the screen here. Is that gonna work? No. There we go. Is that showing up? Yeah. This is a book cover I made for a book that's going to be coming out sometime. I don't want to say too much, but so it was fun to paint this. It's obviously it has a lot of floating large objects is a very signature Neofeud thing. But so I've painted those before, but not exactly this. So that was fun. And that was part of what we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. And of course, when you support us, but you also get access to this is like some of the last little bits of the Neofeud 2. There is a rock band in Neofeud 2. A lot of Neofeud 2 was animating like high res sprites. There's a lot of the time was just animating these high res images. And so anyways, so you also get access to the Silver Spook Discord and Silver Spook University. What is a Silver Spook University? Silver Spook University is over 1,000 hours of the content produced here at the Silver Spook Co-op on the streams, Twitter, threads, and other information that we share, categorized by topics, including decolonized economics, history, politics, hard and soft sciences, technology, pop culture analysis, lots and lots of stuff. Various Asia, Africa, Latin America focused, race and gender focused, economics focused. Most of this content is like multidisciplinary, as things that we do here often are. Artificial intelligence, discussions of futurism, cyberpunk, sci-fi, international summits. I've done many of these. I have a new one I need to upload. I need to add to the Patreon. We just did another international Silver Spook Indigenous Thanksgiving panel. And yeah, so you get all of that when you become a Silver Spook patron at any level. Yeah, so consider helping us out if you haven't yet on Patreon at patreon.com/Neofeud. And of course, you can also help us, like I already said many times, by grabbing Neofeud, which is on sale right now on the Steam site and also on the itch.io site. Grab it for your friends, grab it for your relatives, grab it for your parents, your brother, your sister, your imaginary friends. Like I said, I have at least 50 imaginary friends. I grab Neofeud for all 50, and you should too. Get Neofeud for your imaginary friends in real Steam accounts. Okay, so just imagine random people are your imaginary friends, and then I'm just kidding, obviously, but get as many Neofeuds as you can for real people. You can also help us out by leaving even a very short review. If you like Neofeud, consider leaving one, and that helps us get the game discovered in the Steam algorithm, which there are like comments on YouTube videos or replies on social media threads. It really helps to get the game discovered if you leave a review on it. You can also get the game, as I already showed here, and there's several other games, including Decolonators, where it's like a Contra style anti-colonial game where you fight nasty invaders, and of course Indigistar is another game. Indigistar, I was talking about this ancient indigenous race. Indigistar is where I part of where I tried to figure out who these Neofeud 2's ancient super advanced indigenous socialist aliens, who they were, was part of that, was figuring it out in this game. And so Indigistar is set between Neofeud 1 and 2, and you can learn about the world of Neofeud 2 by playing that game. Also, there is Pigeon with Gun and Woman is a book by Howley, who was raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity and critiques that world in this book that is from the perspective of Mary within the Bible. And it is, of course, free, or you can donate some money when you pick it up. You can also follow on Mastodon at Silver Spook Games at wandering.shop and or at Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social. We're also on the Blue Ski, or whatever they call that thing now. Started by Jack Dorsey, ex Twitter head. At silverspookgames.bsky.social and or my personal account is at silverspookguy.bsky.social. You can also follow on Twitter, of course. We're on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram. But you can follow on Twitter at silverspookguy, Silver Spook Games minus the E in silver for the games related stuff. And you can also follow Terminus C, which is Terminus Cyberstars account for Cyberpunk RPG. I am the content director, lead writer of. It also has games. It also has it's a world set within the Neofeud Terminus universe. This is all connected. In fact, and one last thing, since I already brought that up, Terminus Machina was the first Silver Spook game that you can play if you have Deus Ex. I made this game like before I was even working on Neofeud, and but the Terminus, Neofeud, and Neofeud 2 universe are all in the same universe now. So yeah, if you want to know even more old school Silver Spook lore, you can go into this game that I made right around the 0809 financial crisis and the aftermath. Anyways, that's just more games for you to play, and you can also, of course, follow Holly at Allergic to Blue, married writer, producer, moderator, and more, married to myself, as I discussed. But we're also the Silver Spook Cooperative, parent of 2, Landback, Free Hawaii, and MECFS Saver, as we talked about. Yes, please take necessary precautions, including masking up, especially now we have very high rates of illness and sickness, and H5N1 is rapidly spreading, among other things. So please take the proper precautions, keep everybody safe. I talked about this at length last video, so you can watch that one if you want to learn more about that. And thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for your ongoing support. Without your support, it's hard for us to keep doing this work. So thank you so much to all of our Patreon supporters. Scale Siblings, those 2 other games will be on Steam. Okay, since you asked that, I will answer this real fast. Yeah, be safe all. Thanks, Colin. Thanks, McLovin. Those are probably not going to be on Steam for reasons that I cannot discuss right now. Or it's just if you want to get Decolonators and the Pigeon with Gun and a Digistar on itch, if they come to Steam, I cannot tell you when. Not in any foreseeable future. So I'll just get them on itch if you really want. Anyways, thanks a lot to all of our Patreon members for your support. Massively appreciated. Until next time, keep your mirror shades polished. Be excellent to each other. Keep your dystopia in the imaginary realms, ideally, and have more real artists and workers in your real world. And